Hey there, Team Healthy. You guys ready to get going? It's Wednesday, 11 o'clock according to my clock here. That's Central Time US. And okay, here's the cool thing. And I never want to take this for granted. We're all over the world. I mean, literally. And I get comments from all these different continents, whether it's in Africa or Asia or Australia, New Zealand. New Zealand, is that a continent? Or Europe, of course, Canada. I'm so thankful, and we have some solid people down in the Brazil area. I'm so thankful for you guys, and I'm honored that you allow me to be on your journey with you. And those of you who are regular folks, you know that what I like to do is through the week I pick up questions that you leave for me, and then I put them in my little copy and paste and give a little format here. And then during this time on Wednesdays, that's what we do. We just field questions, and it allows me to know where you are. And I've got some interesting ones here. A couple of days ago on Monday, I had a new video about how narcissists will play both sides of the victim game. They see themselves as being a victim, and then what they do is they turn around and they victimize you. It's like, well, if you don't like being victimized, then why do you do it to other folks? And that's another story because they're not that self-aware. Um, and by the way, I'm going to be putting together an article. I mean, a video pretty soon about how exactly how oblivious are narcissists, and the answer is they're not, and they are. Okay, but nonetheless, narcissists just they're the gift that keeps on giving, don't you know? And they just can't stop themselves thinking in terms of who's the victim and the dominance and control and all of that. And we're going to see that very heavily in the questions that we have here. So if you're new to the format, or if you just kind of forgotten, go ahead and put your questions in the comment section below. I'll pick up on them. I'm sometimes my wife thinks I'm a little too meticulous in making sure I stay on top of all the comments. I mean, literally, we get thousands a week, and I'll run through them. Obviously, I just can't comment on all of them, but I do see it, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate how you all encourage each other. That's when we call ourselves Team Healthy. So put your questions in there, and I'll find them. I'll pick them up, and then we'll get some and continue on as until you run out of questions. Basically, hope that's not going to be for a while. Okay. By the way, okay. Personal thing. We had a birthday this last week at the Carter house. Gus. Gus turned 10 years old. And so, since you've seen him last, uh, I love my dog. And it's just kind of an aside. I just think that when you're able to connect with nature, when you're able to connect with the animal kingdom and all sorts of things that go along with that, you're just a step further in terms of knowing what goodness and love and peace and interconnectedness is all about. Gus just jumps in here with me in my videos. He's part of my life. So I got a 10-year-old boy that's he's caught up with me. That's 70 in dog years. Anyway, happy birthday, Gus. Okay, now the first question we have, and this is probably I say this almost every week. This is one of my most common questions, and like I say, probably about 2 or 3 weeks, I stay ahead of myself with topics. I'm going to be doing a thing about how aware narcissists are. Um, let's see here. Okay, well, yeah. Let me go to let me start with one that has to do with flying monkeys. Okay, let's do that one. This person talks about the question. I was wondering, do flying monkeys enhance narcissism in a narcissist? Okay, the answer is yes. They're the ultimate enablers and enabling. Yeah, we're going to make this work for you, Mr. or Mrs. Narcissist. Yes. And then this person goes on to say, it seems that the narcissist in my life is docile for some time intervals until the monkeys come flying, is the way this person put it. I've termed it the flying monkeys narcissism multiplier. We need to make a book or a song or something like that. The Flying Monkeys Narcissism Multiplier. So you have this narcissist that seems to be harmless and docile, and then along comes these enablers, and then a whole different person shows up. What's going on there? Um, one of the things that narcissists want and need to do is they want to establish that they're, well, a little better than everybody else. And, they have greater insights and awarenesses, their opinions and their priorities are the best. And so they like establishing themselves in a group that says, you need to look to me and make sure that you just kind of fall in line with where I am. Some narcissists, and these tend to be more the covert narcissists, can be a little bit more reluctant to be brash about that desire. They don't want to be called out because they kind of can know that if they are too overt or if they're too pushy in the way that they engage with other individuals, they're going to get called out on it. But then along comes Joe over here and Jane over there, and they come along. It's like, I think you're a somebody. I mean, look at how accomplished you are, or look how desirable you are, or how nice you are. And the narcissist is thinking, that's exactly what I needed to hear. In fact, I am kind of nice. And so they take any kind of admiration that someone has for them and they turn it into an extra element of entitlement. Well, because you admire me, I, it really does illustrate that someone, obviously you, think that I'm really special. So yeah, I really am somebody. And so they need to find a reason to be superior. And when someone comes along and says, well, I'll go along with you. And if you ridicule someone, I'll laugh at the jokes. Or if you have an opinion that is stubbornly closed-minded, I'll go along and say, I think you're really smart. And so the narcissist just gets thrilled by it. And they know other folks may not buy into it, but they want and they need their flying monkeys. Just about every narcissist is going to have someone or several someones or an entire group of someones who plays the role of the flying monkey that props them up. And so narcissists know how to posture themselves. And so some are just going to be blatantly controlling and overbearing with or without the flying monkeys. But others, once those guys show up, we have the flying monkeys narcissism multiplier. I love it. I just had to leave that because that's pretty cool. And so the flying monkeys pretty much act like the narcissist pep squad. I've got your back, and you've given all your BS to me, and I bought into it all the way. So why don't you sling some more of that out there? And the narcissist is like, I'm more than happy to comply. So yeah, they look for someone who will just justify what they already want to believe about themselves, which is I'm unique, and if I have to let other individuals know how they're beneath me, then these folks they'll back me up. So they look for that. They need that. Now, another person asked the question. I've held on to my faith through a couple of tough years and have shed a river of tears, but I still wonder why these people can get such a strong hold on our hearts. Okay, so you've got somebody here, and I'm going to guess that a very high percentage of you in the audience here today would say, there's some people that I just have a hard time letting go. These people are rude, or they're insensitive, or they step all over me, but I don't want to have to admit defeat. And so, like this woman, it's like, I cry, I moan, I groan, I plead my case. I just say what's going on, or inwardly, I know better that it doesn't have to be this way. And then the question is, why does this person have such a stronghold on my heart? And actually, let's see if we can take this a little bit deeper than that. Okay. Um, you're attached to that person. Let's say that you have someone that you live with, or someone that's in your family, or a friend that you don't want to let go of, even though they tend to be a little toxic. And you can say, yeah, all of my energy is placed in that person. Well, it's more than that. Your energy is wrapped up in your ideals, okay, as represented by that person. So that's a little bit different. And so the ideal is, let's have a sense of goodness. Let's have a sense of encouragement. Let's have a sense of love and kindness toward one another. We can have compromise and friendliness and availability. I'm willing to do that. And then you hold on to that ideal, and you so want that other person to say, well, that makes sense to me, because frankly, you're probably right. And there's a sad thing that goes along with that, and that is if you hold on too strongly, not just to the person, but to the ideals, then you find yourself feeling defeated, because you see you're trying to think in terms of heart connection. Narcissists don't think in terms of heart connection. They think in terms of competition, who's up and who's down. And so you're over there thinking, well, I just want to have a relationship where we don't have all this posturing kind of stuff. And the narcissist is like, well, that kind of makes it easy on me because I posture all the time. And so there's a time when you're going to have to admit you think so differently from the narcissist that it's simply not going to be there. And actually, the narcissist is going to constantly be playing a game of one up and one down. And so there's a sense of duality that you're going to have to come to terms with. And that is, when I say duality, there's good in life and there's not good in life. And you can hold on to the desire for the good, that you don't want to have to accept the bad. Now, on a very, very small level, and let's keep this very minimal. Let's suppose that my wife, that I genuinely love her, and we have a very good connection. We like to talk at a very deep and personal level, and she's an intuitive just like I am. But let's suppose that we've had a day where it's like she's on one wavelength and I'm on another wavelength. It's like, okay, it's probably me. I don't know. It may be her. Who knows? But when you get two people that don't have the exact 100% train of thought or preference or experiences they're drawing from or whatever's going on, you're just going to have your moments where you miss. And part of your love for each other is that you decide, well, what I'll do is I'll just kind of skate through it. We're going to be fine. We always are. And we're just going to make it to the other side, and we're not going to make a big deal out of it. And there are times when you just accept the fact that there's an imperfection, or it may not even be an imperfection, but just a gap sometimes. This is made more difficult when the other individual does not have that same thinking. If you have a gap with a narcissist, they're in their competitive mindset, they're immediately going to say, something's wrong with you, isn't there? And so that's them victimizing you. They can't just say, yeah, it is what it is. It's humanity. But it's like, well, if there's a gap, someone has to be blamed, and you're it. And so this person just kind of goes through the tears, as she says, and this is basically a relationship fatigue, and she keeps realizing, or being proven to, narcissists must dominate, and it's a matter of realizing there are just some people that are going to be limited in terms of how close that I can be with them, because they're constantly thinking of which one of us is going to win and which one of us is not. And the narcissist is like, oh, I'm not going to be the loser, and so you have to be the loser. And so you have to go ahead and factor that in. And it's what I have repeatedly, I use the term ugly truth. It's an ugly truth that's part of any relationship, but especially with a narcissist. You will not always be on the same page with them. And it's in every life, some rain must fall. And this is some of that rain that's there. Okay, this is when we talk about narcissists who can't stop victimizing their victimizing behavior. This next one is classic. This person writes in, the narcissist in my life demands that I tell him why I have pulled away from him. How much of an explanation do I owe him? So here you have a situation where you got a guy that's just too much for you, too overbearing, or too insensitive, or unruly, or dishonest, or whatever it might be. I mean, the possibilities are very broad. And you're thinking, this is not good for me, and I just need to pull away. And frankly, I think there's just simply times when you realize what your limitations are, and you acknowledge, I just can't deal with certain individuals. That's okay. So what kind of an explanation do you want to give to that person? I'm going to make the assumption that if this was an individual who could talk about those types of personal things, and you could give an explanation and it would feel like it resonated, that you probably wouldn't be pulling away in the first place. The fact that you can't really talk to that person about why the gap is there says this individual is closed off. That's why you're pulling back. And so I don't know how deep you want to go. My guess is you've probably already tried at different times to say, hey, look, when I tell you this, it means such and such. Or I know you feel this and you interpret that, but here's what's going on. You've probably had 100, I mean, literally 200, 500, it depends on how long you've known the person, episodes where you've tried to explain yourself. And here you are, you're still thinking, well, it hasn't worked. So I've got to pull away. And so the narcissist, and this is the ultimate arrogance, says, well, you still owe me an explanation. And you can be thinking, how many explanations can I give? And is this next one going to be the one that breaks through? And so when the narcissist says, you owe me an explanation, A, no, you don't. And B, that person is just, it's their way of saying, I feel rejected by you. I'm offended. But what I have to do is I could actually look at myself and ask, why does somebody feel that way toward me? And I may need to take some personal inventory. That's what a healthy person would do. But the narcissist is like, you're victimizing me. There's got to be something that's wrong with you. So what I want you to do is I want you to expose your stupid thinking so that I can then come back and tell you how stupid you are. And then I win. And even though you walk away, I'll be the kind of person that says, I didn't want those sour grapes anyway. Yeah, that kind of thing. And it's their way of just they're playing games with you. And so, do you have an explanation? Or do you need to offer that person when they say, "Well, you owe me an explanation"? My response would probably be something more of a gray rock kind of thing. And I've had multiple videos where I talk about this, and that is, well, the reason that I'm moving away is it's just not working. Well, what's not working? Things. I don't want to get into it, and it's not passive aggressive. It's just futility. If they say, well, you need to tell me why you're having to pull back, and my response might be something like, well, that's what you think, but you see, I don't think that way. And the fact that you want to pound a response out or draw a response out of me, which I know is not going to be the right one, tells me I'm making the right decision. And so you just move on, and just know that there's going to be a loose endedness there, and that's part of what's causing you to want to move on. You simply don't owe that person. Again, keep in mind, one of the defining features of narcissism is entitlement. I'm entitled to your explanation. Well, I think it's actually a courtesy when you can explain yourself to people, if that's what that person is willing to engage with. But that's not what they're about. They're just trying to establish even more dominance and kind of protect their ego that's kind of felt a little prick, or it's been shattered, and also it's all a ruse on their part. You don't really owe them that much. Stay gray rock, because I'm going to guess any attempts in the past to explain yourself has gone straight down the tubes anyway. Okay, this next one, you talk about projection, and these folks, it's like, are they that blind that they don't see these obvious patterns? And the answer is, yeah, they don't see it. Um, this person says, what do you do about a person who insists you promise to never speak to or contact a certain person that they have deemed as evil, when that evil person was more their friend than yours to begin with? I never had a bad word or a problem with this evil person. So you've got this narcissistic person that says, "Hey, you can't talk to Joe anymore. He's evil. He's terrible." And you're thinking, "Well, what's going on?" Well, he's evil, and I forbid you to speak to that person. Okay, so right there, that tells me one huge thing, and that is that evil person caught them at something, or called them out, or disappointed them, and then they were and exposed a major flaw. And so the narcissist must look at that person who's speaking about things that the narcissist himself doesn't want to address. they must look at them in an invalidating kind of way. That's what I mean when I say they can't stop victimizing other individuals. If you disagree from me, that means you're evil. And so, so they're saying it to the person that the narcissist is connected to, and you need to agree with me that they're evil. And so, my question is, what does evil mean? And then this sounds to me like this person has decided evil means you don't agree with me. Actually, evil, and this is where the projection comes in. Evil can be defined on a continuum of dominance and control. Evil individuals not only want to dominate other individuals, they'll do so in such a way that destroys other individuals. And so the narcissist wants to destroy the person who's come against them. And then they're calling them evil when in fact, by saying they're evil, they're being the destructive person. Do you see that? They're projecting onto that person there their own proclivity towards dominance and destruction. They're saying, well, that's what they're doing. When in fact, no, it's a self-protective kind of a thing. And it's such a common device that narcissists have. I cannot overemphasize how protective they are, how defensively they respond to life. They have such a tight need to protect themselves from having to examine who they are. And so if somebody comes along and says, well, you and I aren't getting along very well, then rather than saying, well, I need to look, and it's like, well, then you're evil. And so if you don't have a negative relationship with that person, then make up your own mind. And if the narcissist says, "I forbid you to ever speak to that person again," it's like, well, that's your take on it. That's not my take on it, and it's okay to be separate and be distinct. And if they don't like it, it's like, well, until further notice, I'm going to go ahead and talk to Joe. If I see him in public, I'll say hello to him, ask him how his day's going, ask him what he had for lunch, whatever. Okay, this next one is you're probably going to roll your eyes on this one because it seems so wrong on so many different levels. This person says, in the beginning of my relationship with my ex, he was very talkative about his sex partners and how he did, in quotation mark, sexual acts with them. He even made a spreadsheet to count them all. Is this also a way of the narcissist to show off? Yeah, I guess. Is there something like a sexual narcissist? Definitely. Also, he talked quite a lot about his exes on how they were no good. Anyway, I'm out now for 8 months and I feel very happy. Okay. My thing is you're getting involved with a guy and right away he starts talking about, hey, you want to hear about all the different people I had sex with? You want to hear how I did it? And starts going into stories about it. My question is, why are you going to be with that person another time? Right there, right there, right there. That guy's revealing one thing, and that is I use women and I'll use them up. I'll exploit, I'll drain them, I'll get whatever goodies I want, and then on to the next conquest. I mean, that's exactly what the guy's telling you. And guess what? You're the next one in line, and then you'll be rejected, and then he'll be talking about you and how you weren't any good either. Sexuality is such a fascinating topic for us to consider, with respect to what it means. In its best context, it has such a potential for bonding and closeness and having a true vulnerability and commitment and trustworthiness that's there. And it can be such a force for good when it's managed in the proper context. Other individuals, though, it's like, well, all I know is it feels good. And all I know is it makes me feel like, at least for that moment, I have someone that's kind of held captive by me, captive control. And I like it. And as long as I can get my jollies, then I'm good. I'll just keep doing it. But then the minute that goes away, when you have something of that nature and you engage in it enough times, the shine wears off. Then what you do is when what sustains sexuality is the commitment and the love and the connection. And narcissists don't do that. Ultimately, sexuality in its best case scenario is a form of vulnerability that leads to trustworthiness, and it leads to a true pathway into genuine intimacy. And so this guy is just saying, what? All I know is my hormones are raging and you're available and you seem to be pretty desirable right now. Let's go get it. And it's like, honey, why are you even listening to someone like this? Do you not have enough respect for yourself or enough awareness, first of all, to know that he's just going to do the same thing to you that he's done to all these other people? And you do not have enough respect for yourself to say, well, wait a minute, this isn't about bodily functions. I mean, yeah, the body's involved, of course, but this is about heart connection. This is about a spiritual connection. This is about a kindred spirit, and I want to make sure that when I'm in that space, that it's done in a way that enhances all of that, and that everything about this says that this guy has no sense of that at all. And maybe I'm old fashioned, people that have hookups and just casual sex, friends with benefits, and all of that. It's like, well, it was just fun, and just kind of like, we went to a ball game and we had fun with that, so we can have sex and do that, and that's it. Then ultimately, somebody's going to wind up feeling hurt, and somebody's going to wind up feeling used. And I'm hoping you can have enough of a sense of future thinking so that you can think, where's all this headed? Because if it means that I'm going to be honored, if it means that I'm going to be held in highest regard, that's great. But if it means that once that shine wears off, I'm going to be tossed off to the side, he's going to be on to the next one. I'm going to be on that flow chart then, and he's going to tell the next one how I wasn't all that good. I am not interested in enough in that. I have way, way too much self-respect. And so this person that was on the receiving end of that from that guy that was the sexual user, I'm glad you feel better. And I'm hoping you can use that to say those are enormous red flags when he goes around bragging about all that kind of stuff that says the only thing he does is he sees people as tools to be used, period, end of discussion. Then he moves on. You need to move on. Okay. Oh boy. All right. This next one, and this is the one I was thinking of when I started at the very beginning. This person says, I've been the victim of narcissistic abuse, and many of the doctors, people like me, talk about setting boundaries. Yes, we do. We talk about that. Well, I have tried that, and boy, what a mistake. That ratcheted up a hellacious attack on me. So my question is now, what am I supposed to do when I'm not allowed to set my boundaries? Who gives you permission to set boundaries? Well, it sounds to me like the narcissist does or does not. And that's just so contrary to what the concept of boundaries is. Yesterday, I had the interview that I did with Terry Cole about her book on boundaries, and I found it to be very delightful, and I thought her information was really good, and I had a good discussion with her. If you haven't seen that Terry Cole interview that I did, go back and watch that. But I understand where this lady's coming from. When you say I try to set boundaries, in other words, I try to say this is what I want and this is what I don't want. But then obviously that narcissistic person, predictably, because they're a narcissist, tries to shut it down and say, well, that's stupid, or you can't do that, or I'll make you pay, or I'm going to make it miserable, or I'm going to withdraw this and withdraw that. And so you say, see, it didn't work. Boundaries is not about making the other person understand. Boundaries is not about getting the other person to change. Boundaries is not about getting the other person to say, I support you. Boundaries are established probably because the other person is doing the opposite of all of that. When we talk about boundaries, we're talking about you having a sense that says, I know who I am. And I know what I believe, and I know what makes sense to me. And if another person chooses to coordinate with me, that would be very nice. If another person chooses not to coordinate with me, I'm still going to be who I am. And so I don't have to have someone else's permission for me to be me. Now, it may be that you have little bitty small things. I had this one woman who said, I might be back in the bedroom, and my husband would be on the other side of the house, and he would holler, say, and he would start having a conversation with me from across the house. And then she would say, I hate it when I have to, get up and do from what I'm doing and go into where he is and hear what he has to say. Well, a boundary would be, Okay, I don't really think that it's a good thing to shout across the house and try to have a conversation because it tends not to go well. And so you might say, well, when my husband yells at me across the house, I'm not required to yell back. I'll just continue what I'm doing. And when I'm in another part of the house, I'll say, apparently you had something to say. Tell me what it was. That's a boundary. In other words, I don't have to just come running when you whistle. And so, or it may be something bigger. It may be like I spent $100 on something, and that other person says, "Well, you shouldn't have done that." And so it's like, well, okay, I guess I'll take it back. Well, they don't like it, but that's your boundary. My boundary is I define me, and that was a good decision, and I'm going to go ahead and follow through on it. And when the person says, "Well, I don't like it," I'm going to take away your credit card, then I'm gonna be who I am anyway. And so you don't have to convince, you don't have to plead, you don't have to have agreement. It would be nice if you could accomplish all of that. But the boundary is you saying, I'm too committed to my own uniqueness to feel like I have to filter everything through that other person. And so this individual is so intense on saying, but I have to have that person's concurrence to have a good boundary, or they'll get mad. And my response is, yeah, they'll get mad. They're already mad. Is that person's anger your responsibility? And are you so tied to that person that if that person's mad, do they have the power to take over your finances, your schedule, all of your friendships? And I'm hoping that you're not so under someone's dominance that you can't be you. At some point, it's like, well, I just don't have a particular apology for me saying I have a preference. I made a decision. This is my priority. I think differently. And if you don't like it, I'm still me. And so you want to seek your independence. And by the way, give yourself permission to do it in small ways. For example, I had this is another silly illustration. I had a guy that said, "Well, at work, I have this friend that likes to have lunch with me, which I like, but he always wants to go to these junk food places and eat all sorts of stuff that are not healthy. And when I say I don't want to, I'd rather have something more healthy. He wants to go to the junk food places anyway." And my response is, well, why don't you go eat where you want to eat? So, well, I won't be with him. So, well, that's a boundary. And I mean, it can be a little bitty small things, but go ahead and give yourself permission to be you. And it's simply not another person's prerogative to say, I'm in charge of what that's going to be. And you need to take your power back and quit worrying about if that person's going to agree with you or not. They won't, because narcissistic people are self-centered. I mean, they don't consider other people's feelings. To factor that in. Um, okay, and this was probably written by one of the nicest people you'd ever meet. This next question: why do good people fall for a narcissist fake niceness? Are we so trained to be trusting that we just don't see the signs? And the answer is, well, first of all, whatever we're going to do, don't apologize for being sweet. Don't apologize for being kind and friendly. But then sometimes you can just, it can be so natural for you, good for you, by the way, that you think, well, I know I'm going to be nice to you. Surely you're going to be nice to me in reverse. And you don't think like a narcissist, which is not a bad indictment, by the way. The narcissist, though, when they think, well, I want something. One of the ways I can get it is I can do you a favor and then you'll owe me. Or one of the ways I can do is I can pay you a compliment and then you'll be beholden to me. And so when narcissists are nice, there's a hook on the backside of it. And you're thinking, well, but I don't think that way. And unfortunately, you're going to factor in a certain amount of pessimism, and you're going to have to factor in a certain amount of negativity. And I know that sounds so like fingernails across the chalkboard, so counterintuitive and so undesirable. But there simply are people out there that don't think like nice people. Um, and you have to go ahead and factor in some people are just plain old users. They have always been, they always will be. They can dress it up. Part of their skill, if you will, is to be that way. And then you wind up thinking, well, am I such a bad person? That's the victimization they want you to be in. They want you to think, yeah, you are something bad because you're nice to me. I'm nice to you, but then they don't reciprocate. And then you think, well, what's wrong with me? just know that you're just going to have to learn how to factor in a certain amount of pessimism in any relationship. That's kind of sad. But no, we all have that good and bad, and there it is. Okay. Now, this next one. The older I get, the more I have peers and all who have dealt with this kind of thing. So let's see what you think. This person says, "Why is my narcissistic mother, who left my father several years ago, now visiting my dying father in the hospital and trying to get back in with him? He thinks she's coming home, but she's already upset him at the hospital and she had to be removed. She's still slandering my scapegoat sibling. What can she possibly gain from this?" Okay, we have this mother who apparently for quite some time has rejected the father, and I don't know if there's been a divorce, but there's obviously some sort of strong rift that's there, not only between herself and her former husband, but the kids. And dad is dying. He's in the hospital, and it may be it. And at some level, that narcissistic mom is probably thinking, I could come out looking kind of crummy on this. I mean, people liked him, and now they're feeling sympathy for him. And if I don't show up, it might make me look cruel and heartless. And I don't need that on my resume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake some cookies, and I'm going to take them to the hospital, and I'm going to look pretty good. And it's like, but we haven't even invited you to Christmas for the last 4 years. Yeah, but these are really good cookies, and I'm nice. And tell me about your kids. Show me some pictures, and just kind of come in and just try to make herself look like she's a somebody. But then apparently it didn't take very long for her colors to show, and she starts being bossy or rude or critical or agitated or argumentative. To the point where when you're asked to have to leave the hospital, ma'am, you're being disruptive. Please go away. It's like, what's going on with that person? And it illustrates that at some level, these individuals know I'm being judged and I'm not coming out too good on today's test. I've got to see what I can do to bring my grade point average up. That's all she's doing. It's posturing. It's phony baloney. And at the end, when you ask, what does she think she's going to gain? What she wants is a blue ribbon. Now, who's going to give her the blue ribbon? Me. I'm going to go there. I'm going to make nice, and then I'm going to give myself a blue ribbon as I leave the hospital. I'm the winner. And it's like, you really think that way? And the answer is yeah. And it's here we go again. We can see that this woman is not out for kindness. She's not there for concern or regard. She wants her reputation to be such that she can stay in a dominant power position. There's hardly any kind of love at all there. Sometimes I've lost both of my parents, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is just go sit with them. My mother had Alzheimer's, and I'd hold hands with her, particularly if she's walking down the hallway and she's a little unsteady. And it's like, that was good for me. And I did it not because of any show, but because that's what you do. You love someone when they're in their dying days, and you're kind. And this person is just simply posturing. And I find it to be pitiable. And it's probably going to be necessary for you to let her know, Mom, I know that you made an attempt to be there. Okay, that's been done now. We need to go ahead and do it with the rest of it without you for right now. She may show up at the funeral, who knows? But this is a poser. That's it. And so what does she have to gain? Her own rationalization. That's all she's got to gain. Now, this is another I think this is an interesting question. Why are narcissists not interested in conflict resolution? Is it because they're unable to cooperate? By the way, y'all know that one of the things I pick up on is people will ask a question and then they'll continue to ask questions, and they actually give the answer as they're asking the follow-up questions. That's what's going on here. Why are they not interested in conflict resolution? Is it because they're unable to cooperate? Do they not recognize you as an equal? Do they not recognize you as worthy of consideration? Are they so self-centered that nothing exists but them? Do they not see the harm they cause? Do they not care? There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, the reason they're not interested in conflict resolution is all of that. Um, the cooperation's not in their skill set. They don't see you as equal, worthy, considerate. They are self-centered. Nothing exists except them. They don't see the harm that they bring. They don't care about you. All of that. Conflict resolution starts with one huge presumption, and that is there's an element of reciprocity. That would be a good word. I have my thoughts and feelings and preferences, but I know you do too. And I know that I want to have a certain amount of say so in my life, but I realize you do as well. And so when we talk about having a conflict resolution and the reciprocity that goes along with it, there's a type of equality that goes along there. Or even further, it requires a certain amount of humility. And when I say humility, it means that it's not all about me. I want to factor you in. Conflict resolution is built upon listening. And when I say listening, not for the purpose of poking holes in it, but I want to listen so that I can know you more fully. And then we can adjust, we can lay down our ego. Does any of that sound like something that the narcissist in your world is interested in? They don't care about conflict resolution because the ingredients that are required are so antithetical to who they are, and it would require them to actually have to say, "I need to change." You do, and I do. There's an element of compromise, and to a narcissist, words like compromise or tolerance are curse words. It's like, no, 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 no. I don't compromise. I don't tolerate. And sometimes you just do. There are things that are in my life that I don't particularly care for, whether it's with people or events or whatever. Just tolerate it. That doesn't mean I embrace it or endorse it, but just tolerate it. But narcissist has such a strong need to have their own control and the final word on whatever it is that conflict resolution is like, no, that doesn't work. And that's why I say that many of them seem to have a commitment to the anger that goes along. I've got a brand new online course that's coming out sometime in the month of May. We're still, it's all written and all of that, but it's in process of getting formatted. And so when we talk about conflict and anger with narcissists, they go straight into the game playing mode. They're going to victimize you. They're going to elevate themselves at your expense, and it's not going to be pretty. And as a result, they can't do it. At the base of it, narcissists are afraid of confronting themselves. They can't deal with conflict with you because they can't deal with the conflict inside themselves. They're afraid of their own shadow self. They're afraid of their own flaws or weaknesses or mistakes or miscalculations. It's like, no, I'd rather just stay angry and blame and victimize you than to go into all of that other stuff. And that's what we mean when we say these are terribly insecure individuals. Okay, let's do one last one here. Okay, this person asks, why do some narcissists secretly record conversations and arguments? You ever had that happen to you? Um, I had this is 25 years ago, a patient of mine who would haul his wife into my office and just unload on her and talk about how awful she was. um, he would come into my office, and over time, I found out through the wife that she would tape record secretly. He had a backpack, and he would tape record our sessions. And she would say he would then go back and then listen for anything that you, meaning me, or she said that he didn't like, and then he would make note, and he'd come back and blame it all over again. That's a paranoid person. And there's some individuals who, when they have somebody that they might feel is not on the same page as them, they're constantly looking at, now, what's wrong with you people out there? What is it that you're doing to me? There's a deep, deep paranoia that's there. I don't trust you. You're going to make my life miserable, and I need to have evidence that you're the problem. I'm not the problem. And when you have somebody that feels the need to secretly record you for those kinds of reasons. I mean, we're not talking about the CIA here, okay? But when people do that, it's like they have such a deep, deep distrust and they have such a deep fear of them being exposed as negative that they'll take any and every angle they can to make you the problem and to make themselves look like the victim. And that's what I mean when I say they play both sides of the victim game. So, we have all these illustrations here today, and we're going to get some more during the week that when you send your questions in, where it's like, do these people ever quit playing games? And the answer is not really. There's such an arrested development, and you've heard me say it before. The narcissists are stuck in what I call pre-adolescent thinking. They're children in adult bodies, and they truly have not grown beyond a very primary way of engaging. Relationships take work, and they take thoughtfulness, and they take analytical thinking, self-reflection, and none of those kind of ingredients are part of what we refer to as the narcissistic pattern. And so, being what they are, they just stay back there like kids on the playground. You did this to me. No, you did this to me. And it's just one upping. And what we're going to do is like that person that says, how much of an explanation do I owe? I don't owe them an explanation of what I'm going to do. And the question about boundaries, well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work on their end, but it can work on my end. I'm going to go ahead and cite for myself what I believe wise and best living is. And I'm going to be that. And if they can go along with me, that would be wonderful. Maybe we'll be able to develop something. And if not, I'm just going to be true to me. So great questions here today. And it kind of gives us an idea that every one of us has something in our world. You're not alone. But at the same time, we can come together with our encouragement to one another. And remember, it's possible for some of us to rise above and to say, I'm on Team Healthy. I stand for dignity, respect, and civility. That's what we're here to do. And Team Healthy, I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing. I reiterate, I consider it a privilege that you would let me be a part of that path or journey with you. All right, send your questions in, and we'll pick up on it again the same time, same station next week. I'll see you then. Have a great week.